The One Ring could turn people invisible. We see it happen to Bilbo, Frodo, and even Sam. But there was one being it never seemed to affect that way: Sauron himself. For centuries, Sauron wore the ring openly, in war, in Numenor, and during the Last Alliance. Yet, he never vanished from sight. So why? Was he simply too powerful? Did the ring obey different rules for its master? Or have we misunderstood the ring's invisibility entirely? Because in Tolkien's lore, the ring was never truly made to hide its wearer. Invisibility was only a side effect, and a deeply unnatural one. The real answer reveals something far darker about the ring, the unseen world, and why Sauron was never fading into it in the first place. Welcome back to Middle-earth Explained. Let's get started.
Never put it on, for the agents of the Dark Lord will be drawn to its power. It wants to be affirmed.
One of the biggest misconceptions about the One Ring is that invisibility was its true power. The films make it seem that way. Frodo disappears the moment he puts it on. Bilbo uses it to vanish from unwanted attention. Gollum used it to hunt beneath the Misty Mountains for centuries. But in Tolkien's lore, the ring was never actually designed to make someone invisible. Instead, it pulled mortal beings into what Tolkien called the unseen world, a shadow realm existing alongside the physical one. This is why Frodo could suddenly see the Nazgûl's true forms at Weathertop when he wore the ring. The ring was not hiding him. It was shifting him into another plane of existence. And that came with a terrible cost. Mortals like hobbits and men belong primarily to the physical world. Each time they used the ring, they were pulled further away from it. To everyone else, their bodies faded from sight, but spiritually, they were becoming something unnatural. This is exactly what happened to the Nazgûl. The 9 kings who accepted rings of power slowly faded permanently into the unseen world, until they became wraiths enslaved to Sauron forever. That is why Gandalf feared the ring so deeply. Invisibility was only a side effect. The ring was slowly dragging mortals out of the living world itself. But Sauron was something entirely different.
In the void, only death.
The reason Sauron never became invisible is surprisingly simple once you understand what he truly was. Sauron was not a mortal man. He was a Maya, a powerful spiritual being that existed long before the world of Middle-earth was even fully formed. Before taking physical shape, Sauron existed naturally in the unseen realm. That world was already his native state, and that changes everything. When mortals wore the ring, they were dragged partially into the unseen world, causing their physical bodies to fade from normal sight. But Sauron did not need to be shifted there. He already existed in both worlds at once. The ring could not pull him somewhere he already belonged. This is why Sauron remained completely visible while wearing the One Ring. The ring enhanced the power he already possessed, rather than altering his state of existence.
It is a strange fate that we should suffer so much fear and doubt over so small a thing.
For mortals, the ring was corrupting and unnatural. For Sauron, it was an extension of himself. And Tolkien hints at this idea elsewhere too. Gandalf, Saruman, and the Balrogs were also Maiar, beings tied to both the physical and spiritual worlds. They did not become invisible simply because they entered the unseen realm. Their physical forms were powerful enough to remain anchored in the visible world. Sauron's body, especially during the Second Age, was not some illusion. It was a real physical form inhabited by an immensely powerful spirit. And when he wore the ring, that spirit did not fade away. It became stronger.
Use the ring, Mr. Frodo. Just this once. Put it on. Disappear.
The One Ring was never meant to be a tool for hiding. Its true purpose was far more terrifying. Sauron forged the ring inside the fires of Mount Doom to dominate the other rings of power and control the minds of their bearers. That was its real function. The invisibility effect that mortals experienced was almost accidental compared to the ring's actual purpose. This is why Sauron wore the ring openly during war. He was not trying to sneak through Middle-earth unseen. He wanted to be seen. The ring amplified his natural power, his presence, and his ability to dominate others. When Sauron entered battle during the War of the Last Alliance, he appeared as a towering Dark Lord wielding overwhelming force. Tolkien describes him as a figure of terrible power, not a hidden shadow slipping through armies unnoticed. And in many ways, invisibility would have been useless to Sauron anyway. Fear was one of his greatest weapons. Throughout Tolkien's legendarium, Sauron ruled through intimidation, dread, and psychological control. His enemies were meant to see him. They were meant to witness the impossible power of the Dark Lord standing before them. The ring amplified that terror. It strengthened his will, helped him bend others to his command, and increased his influence across Middle-earth. For someone like Frodo, the ring pulled him toward the unseen world because he lacked the strength to master it. But for Sauron, the ring functioned exactly as intended, as an instrument of domination. And that difference reveals something important about the ring itself. It did not affect every bearer equally. If you enjoyed the video so far, don't forget to drop a like.
I'm going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell.
Not everyone who wore the One Ring experienced its powers in the same way, and Tolkien makes this clearer as the story goes on. For hobbits like Bilbo and Frodo, the ring mostly granted invisibility because they were small mortal beings with very little spiritual power of their own. The ring overwhelmed them quickly, pulling them toward the unseen world almost immediately. But stronger beings reacted to the ring differently. Take Tom Bombadil, for example. When he placed the ring on his finger, absolutely nothing happened. He did not disappear. In fact, he could even see Frodo, while Frodo himself was invisible. Whatever Bombadil truly was, he existed beyond the ring's normal influence. The same idea likely applied to Gandalf or Galadriel. Tolkien strongly implies that if beings of great spiritual power claimed the ring, they would not simply vanish like hobbits did. The ring would amplify their native abilities instead, making them far more dangerous and terrifying. And this helps explain Sauron perfectly. The more powerful the being, the less the ring functioned like a cloak of invisibility, and the more it became a weapon of domination and spiritual amplification. For weaker mortals, the side effect was dramatic, because the ring was forcing them into a realm they did not belong in. But Sauron already belonged there. That is why the ring did not hide him from the world. It revealed what he truly was, an ancient spiritual power wearing physical form, strengthened beyond measure by the object into which he had poured much of his own soul.
I suppose you think that was terribly clever. There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
What makes this so disturbing is that the ring's invisibility was never a gift at all. It was a warning. Every time Bilbo vanished, every time Frodo slipped into that shadow world, the ring was slowly eroding their connection to the living world. What seemed useful on the surface was actually a sign of corruption taking hold. And Tolkien shows this most clearly through the Nazgûl. They did not become invisible because they mastered the rings of power. They became invisible because the rings consumed them completely. Their physical selves faded until only wraiths remained, trapped forever between worlds, enslaved to Sauron's will. That is the fate the One Ring ultimately threatened for all mortals. But Sauron never suffered this effect, because he was never fading to begin with. He already existed as a being of both the seen and unseen worlds. The ring was not consuming his identity the way it consumed others. It was returning power to its master, and that completely changes how we should view the ring. To mortals, invisibility felt magical, but in Tolkien's world, it was actually a symptom of spiritual decay. The ring was pulling its bearers away from life itself, step by step, until they became shadows under Sauron's control. Which means, the terrifying truth is this: the more invisible someone became while wearing the ring, the closer they were to losing themselves forever. In the end, Sauron never became invisible because the ring was never affecting him the way it affected mortals. Hobbits, men, and the Nazgûl were being pulled out of the living world, slowly fading into shadows. But Sauron already existed in both the seen and unseen realms. The ring did not hide him, it empowered him. And that is the dark truth behind the One Ring's invisibility. What looked like a useful magical ability was actually a sign of corruption taking hold. Every moment a mortal vanished from sight, they were moving one step closer to becoming like the ring wraiths themselves, lost between worlds, forever bound to the will of Sauron. If you like this kind of video, join the channel and leave a like for more content like this. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.